Welcome, Clayton from CityFibre. Great introduction, thank you. Morning, everyone. Michael's obviously had at least 2 cups of coffee this morning. We love that passion, we love that story. We want to disrupt an industry just like Michael's doing. We just want to do it to the 5th largest economy in the world. That's our vision. We were discussing last night over drinks. Caroline Hughes, who's responsible for these slides, made a great observation. She said, the theme of this conference is the theme of our business. 7 years ago, CityFibre was a few people around a desk with a network they'd bought for $1 and a vision. 7 years later, we're on the cusp of changing a country. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what that country looks like, how we got to this position where we're able to change it, and why Calix is such a great partner for us in what we're doing. So we'll start with, why were we given this opportunity? The UK is about 66 million people, 25 million homes. In American context, it would fit in this ballroom, but we think it's quite big. And it's traditionally been run by British Telecom, the incumbent who covers the whole country, and Virgin, owned by Liberty Media, and those 2 guys have been running a copper network for the last 100 years and serving customers badly. They've created the opportunity for us to disrupt the space. Because back in 2011, when we were just being formed, there was no fibre to the home in the UK. The UK, 5th largest economy in the world, was 35th in broadband standings and dropping. Everything was running about copper. They were talking about maybe going to fibre to the cab. GFAS was a gleam in someone's eye. They left the door open for us to do this. The UK is going through a series of changes at the moment. I don't know if you've heard of Brexit, as we decide how our relationship with the European Union changes. America, of course, had its own version of Brexit back in 1776. Seems to be working out for you so far. But we're in a situation where there's a lot more uncertainty. The UK is a service economy. Services run on the internet runs on fibre. And the people who were responsible for delivering fibre weren't. And that gave us the opportunity to step in. But to get here, we needed 3 things to happen. And I'm going to run through them now. The first thing we needed was the right model. We needed to know that we could build a network at the right cost and deliver it to all the right people. And the model that we looked at was a 100% wholesale utility approach. So we're fibre end to end. The only copper we have in our business is the change in my pocket. So we're fibre to every single point in our business. We're wholesale only. That means we can reach 1,500 resellers. We can reach massive customers like Vodafone and drive through their distribution chains. And we can concentrate on building the network. They can concentrate on having a great end-user service experience. That works out really well for us. Then Michael said, you build one network. He had 3 applications, we have 4. So right from the beginning, we've always said, we'll build a network for the first application, and then we'll bootstrap ourselves into the next few. So we started often with public sector, government, local government networks. We did wonderful things like in Edinburgh, we took every high school from a 10 megabit connection for a high school to a gigabit, and we took 50% off the cost of that. It's a transformational thing for kids. In fact, it's transformational for teachers. Have you ever dealt with a teenager who can't get access to Wi-Fi and things are slow? Schools calm down a lot. We also just transformed all the other pieces of the public sector business, right? We brought them into the modern world with fibre. On the business side of things, we deliver through almost 2,000 resellers now. And we start at 500 megs and we go up. We don't even talk about 100 meg services at this point. In the mobile space, we moved a major carrier from a microwave-based system to a full fibre-based system. The day they turned that on, the volume of traffic on that network tripled. So think about that for just a second. For the last 5 years, their customers have been getting 1/3 of what they were paying for. All right? And it happened overnight. You want to understand how well they sell versus everybody else in that space? It's an interesting question. Their market share looking pretty good. And lastly, we're now embarking on our final part of the puzzle, which is homes. We had a small experiment a few years ago where we built 14,000 homes up in a city called York. We had our professor of medieval history talk about it yesterday. York is where medieval history is from. That worked out really well for us. It was a great experiment, but now we're going to pour some gasoline on that process and get going. So that was the first piece. We knew we had a business that worked. We knew we could build one network, we could sell it 4 times, and we could scale up. The next piece we needed was, who were we going to work with to make this reality? Now, I've seen a lot of press releases talk about partnerships, where fundamentally someone's paying somebody else. The partnership consists of sending a purchase order. We don't like those kind of partnerships. We like the kind of partnerships where we're lined up strategically, emotionally, vision-wise with everybody that we work with. So we started with Vodafone. Literally 45 days ago, on 9th of November, we announced a groundbreaking agreement with Vodafone. 6th largest carrier in the world, 65 countries, something like that. They'd built 10 million lines of fiber to the home themselves in Europe. In the UK, they said, we're not going to do that. We're going to partner with CityFibre. So they agreed we're going to build 1 million homes of coverage. They guaranteed to buy a certain percentage of that. And we're working with them now. And from essentially 11 months ago, we launched live services. This month, take-up's been great. Customer services are wonderful. And Vodafone's delighted. And we're delighted because we're lined up in what we're trying to do there. Then back in the summer, our friends from New York, Goldman Sachs, and our French friends from Anton came to us and said, you can't do this in a world where you're listed on the public stock exchange. So they took us private. That all kind of played out in June, July. And then we spent the last few months talking to them about how this business goes forward and how we do this in a world where we're financed and we're supported by some of the largest companies in the world. And then just a week or two ago, we announced the last piece of the puzzle in terms of our partnerships, which is we said we're deploying the Calix E9. Now, that sounds like a purchase order relationship again, but it's not. As I said, we love Calix because they disrupt things, right? That's how we define what we do, right? Fundamentally, we're the people fighting against the status quo. Michael's passion this morning, that's what we feel every day. So it was a really critical announcement, not simply because they brought to us the right technologies, they brought to us the right price point, they brought to us the right platform, but they brought the right attitude as well. With them, we're able to deploy the most intelligent access network in the world as far as we're concerned. When we scale from York, 20,000 homes, something like that, it took us 18 months to build. This time next year, we'll be building that level of homes every week, and we will do that for 5 to 7 years. Can't scale up from a manual process and get that working in that place. You have to have zero-touch provisioning. You have to have no people in the loop. And that's where we are now. When you order a service from Vodafone, you can query, you can order, you can place an appointment, you can have an engineer turn up, you can have everything plugged in, and not a single CityFibre person lifts a finger through that process. I mean, we watch what's going on. We're not sleeping. But we don't have to intervene at any point. And a big part of that was the software-defined structures that are available in the Calix piece that allowed us to integrate into our systems really rapidly. So we completed not only our own integration, but an integration to Vodafone's legacy systems, and we did all that in about 9 months from a standing start. Right? 9 months isn't great compared to 3 months with Verizon, but we'll get there. We'll get there. The last piece of the puzzle, and this is really the most important part, is the money. The last question everyone had was, that's great, you've got the contract with Vodafone, you've got the partnership with Calix, you've got the vision, you have some fiber, how are you going to afford to do it? And last week we were delighted to announce that the board is now backing a £2.5 billion rollout program. 5 million homes, 20% of the UK. It's not 5 million people, Michael, it's more like 15 million people. We've already said we're in 37 cities. We've listed them. We've said this is where we're going. This is our territory. We've already started 7 years ago. We're just taking the same network that we use for your public sector services, that your children use at school, that you use at work to access the internet, that you use when you pick up your mobile phone, and we're going to bring it to your house. And we're going to drive that through the whole length of the UK. You can't read all these cities. Some of you will have been there, but some of them are famous: Edinburgh, Glasgow. We're not going to London. And the critical piece about this is, at a time of significant uncertainty with Brexit, this investment represents a massive dose of confidence in what we're doing. We think this turns into 85 billion pounds worth of economic value. In dollar terms, that's about $100 billion, right? It's a great investment. That's a great return. $3 billion in, $100 billion back. 5,000 jobs across the country at a point where we don't know where we're going. And fundamentally underpinning the transformation of the UK service industry. We don't want to be the 5th largest economy, we want to be 4th, at least. China is a bit of a big target, I think, but we're heading there, we're heading there. So fundamentally, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take a medieval country, York, London, places where we bury kings in parking lots, drag it into the 21st century, despite the best efforts of the incumbents. We've got the backing of some great partners. We love what Calix are doing. We've got the money. We're going. The UK is coming back. Thank you.
See, Clayton didn't need a video, did he? I love the story about disruption, the way you're completely redefining how you build a network. And what's great is inspiring is the way that you're completely transforming the way that people in your country actually work, live. How many of us work at home now? It's completely transformative versus a small network. Now you have all this choice. So over the conference, you've heard a lot about where we're going with 5G and all those things. So what's CityFibre's thought on that, and how does it impact it?
You know what I love about the Calix platform? We announced it last week. We haven't put it in the ground yet. It's already solving a problem for me. Because now when I sit down with the network operators, 5G for them means moving from a world where they run 15,000, 20,000 mobile towers to 100,000, a million small cells. They don't know where they're going to be. And now with the platform with NG.2, we can say, don't worry, you don't need to know where they're going to be. I can put 10 gigs of dedicated bandwidth anywhere in the country, every 10 yards, up every telephone pole, every house, everywhere you want to be. We just removed from the conversation the issue of, I don't know where my small cells are going. And they're loving that. The platform's really working for us. We haven't even put it in place yet.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on all your success. Looking forward to our partnership. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Clayton. Really appreciate it.